So we're going to start off by taking off the lug nuts. The light that we're using today is going to be this flexible light. It's an LED light with a rechargeable battery and magnetic base. It's got different settings, and it's extremely bright. It might not come off on camera as bright, but trust me, this is incredibly bright. I keep this in my trunk of my car because of the magnetic base, and I can just simply, change a tire with it real quick on the side of the road, where I can attach it to my fender like that, and it lights up the whole area that I need to work in versus at nighttime not having something. But let's take a look at the caliper and the brakes. So right off the bat, you can tell, I don't know how, but I still have plenty brake material left. Can you guys tell what I'm looking at there? Right here is going to be the remainder of the brake pad material. This is the boot, this is the shim, and this is the whole caliper, and then the pistons inside of here, and then this is the brake line back here. But this right here, I literally still have about half of my brake pad left, and I honestly have no idea how that's possible at 72,900 miles. I did road trips. I mean, I'm not an easy driver. Like, I'm not a grandpa by any means. I mean, I'm not super aggressive, but I'm definitely not a grandpa driver. So let's take this off the caliper and see what we have inside. I can already tell there's a little issue with the boot. I'm going to venture to say that this could use probably a rebuild kit if I was to put new pads in. I think this boot right here, being the way it's squashed out unevenly, is going to give me an issue of trying to return it back in without it bulging around. So we'll take a look and see what we got. Taking a slightly closer look at the caliper, the two slider pins that we're going to have to remove is this one right here, and it's a 14 mil socket, and then there's an identical one on the bottom there, right here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's right there. They're not really on super strong, so you don't need a power tool. I mean, you can see how easily that came off, and then you just undo it, and it's just going to be basically a bolt. And the bottom one, it's the same thing. I believe they're the same size. Sometimes they are different, so you want to double check on your vehicle, but as you can tell on mine, they're the same size. And then you might want to get a hanger or something, because you don't want to hang this off of the brake lines. So what I'll do after I'm done showing you guys is I'll just zip tie it around. I'll show you up here. I'll zip tie it around through this vent hole and probably to the spring here, or around something that just in case it doesn't fall off. So just for reference sake, there are two springs here that are fashioned up in the brake pads themselves, and you can see them here. They are designed to push the pads away from the rotor after the caliper is done squeezing it. They act like a spring, and they add spring tension. So just remember the orientation that they're installed in. Not all cars have that. It's actually pretty cool that they do have that. It does reduce temperatures when it will push the pads outwards, versus relying on creating its own gas through heat to push them out. So probably why they are lasting a little bit longer than traditional. But let's take a look at the caliper. That's generally the more expensive part here. That is a pain in the butt sometimes. So what we're looking at here is this boot here. That's the most important part. If we see fluid around, obviously that's also pretty terminal. So here's the caliper spreader tool that I have. I'll leave the link in the description box below. So we're not going to completely compress the piston. I just want to see if it moves freely or not. That'll tell me if I need a new caliper, which I'm hoping I don't. But let's see what we get here. So we're just going to gently move the piston back in. Now again, if you're going to move this all the way in, you would have to go up top and open up the reservoir cap, because you don't want to increase pressure in the system without having the fluid somewhere to go. So I just want to see if it goes in on its own, nice and easy. I believe it's going in. Yeah, so it's going in just fine. I don't see an issue with it at this point. The only thing I do see a slight issue, let me try to get you up that tripod. I do see a very slight issue, and that's that boot. I know these things are really finicky. They don't typically last long nowadays. But when you do go to compress it, and you can see how the boot's kind of lopsided, especially right there. They do tend to bulge out. And I don't know if it's back pressure behind it or fluid behind it or what. But they do tend to cause a little issue. So when you compress it all the way in, this boot will go past the face of the piston here. So when the new pad goes on it, it could pinch it, or it could just cause issues, and I've seen that happen. Okay, so taking a look at the slider pins here. Now, be very careful to not tear this boot up. They're really flimsy. They're not that great. I typically take off this part of it versus what's inside the caliper. It's a little bit harder to get in. And then I service one at a time. So here's what mine look like. There's still some grease on it. It looks pretty good. I would probably add a little bit more to it. And what you want to take a look at is you want to look at rusting or scoring of any form. And you also want to take a look at this lip here to make sure that there's no grime that got into that lip and preventing the boot from sealing on the actual slider pin. So I just take it, wipe it down. Again, I'm looking for any kind of damage or anything that's not supposed to be there, like foreign material, rocks, sand. And then I'm looking at wear patterns. So you can see the color change. In some areas, some of it's like black or silver, and then the rest of it's kind of like that neon green. So I'm looking for any kind of heat changes that might have changed the color, or wear patterns indicating that something's getting stuck somewhere. So this looks pretty good to me. It looks way better than what 74,000 miles or 73,000 miles should. So this is what I use. I'll leave this in the description box below, an Amazon link to it. It's a really good product. It doesn't bloat or ruin the rubber seals, and it's got a decent temperature rating on it. So it's used for lubricates, prevents oxidation, safe on metals, rubbers, plastic parts, for brake systems, ignition systems, electrical terminal components, rubbers, bushings, and more. So basically, you just take that. You really don't need a lot. If you have too much in here, it will cause bloating, and it'll cause some problems where it will like push out. It'll fight the caliper itself. So just make sure everything's coated, everything's well lubricated, and we're not looking to completely flood that in there. And then just take it and carefully put it back in, and make sure that boot is seated on right. And then whatever the remainder stuff that does come out, you can just wipe that off so it doesn't get hot and leak on any of the braking component system. And then you just want to make sure that the function of it's fine. Again, same concept. Don't rip it out. Be careful. So this one has a rubber bushing on it, so you want to be extra careful with that. So what I do is I take a fresh towel so I don't contaminate it with the last slider pin, and just wipe that off. And this rubber bushing is one thing that will bloat, and it will cause seizures. And that's when you start seeing the bottom of the pads wearing out faster than the top because it's seized up. And that's why it's really important to use something that is safe on rubber bushings. I used to use this product in the past, and it's not bad, but it does cause bloating. It says it's not supposed to, but I found that it has. And again, same concept. We're looking to make sure that the rubber bushing is not torn, that it's spinning freely, no weird wear patterns on the slider pin. Slider pin is not scoring. The edge right there, the lip doesn't have grime built up, preventing the boot from sealing appropriately. Because that seal is the only thing that's stopping from salt and rainwater and puddles, whatever, from getting into the slider pin area. So we're just going to wipe that clean. Again, same concept as the last one. Get some of our grease. Now, if there's something that you see on my video that I didn't mention, just go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll send you an Amazon link to it below so you can read more about it. And if you like it, you can order it. Again, we're just trying to coat it, not so that we're going crazy with the grease, but just enough to where The bushing is nice and lubricated, and it's just at that little like ramped up area. See where it begins to ramp up towards the bushing there, or towards the seal. That's it. And we take it, and we can actually, I want to clean off the inside of that just a little bit, just to get some of the old grime out. Could have sand and stuff in it. Take it and try to get it in as straight as possible. And there you go. Simple as that. So the next step is we're going to remove these two springs here. Otherwise we won't be able to separate the pads. I'm just going to set those aside. I believe they're identical on both sides. I'm going to remove one pad at a time. Try not to use your screwdriver on the face of the actual rotor or the pad, because you'll score it and it can cause some damage when you go to replace it. So mine come out just fine. There's the air groove in there. Surprisingly, it's not clogged up, so you can just take your screwdriver and clean that out and use some brake fluid. I can see that some of the grease that I used to use is still in there, and that's still on the edges here. So that's probably why I don't have major damage to these little metal clips here, and it didn't get stuck. It came right out on its own. So that's why servicing your brakes is so important, is because it not only prolongs the life of things, but it also stays safe. If this pad is jammed in there and it's rusted shut and it's not making contact with the rotor, well then you have one less pad, or 50% less braking power on this one side alone. So that's pretty important, since the front, especially of the vehicle, takes the brunt and does most of the braking power. So we can go ahead and just clean that off using some brake fluid, or a brake cleaner. Clean this air channel out, because that's what helps the gases escape when they're under heavy braking load. And again, you can just tell that 73,000 miles, that is an incredible amount of brake pads still left. I'll probably do a full brake job at 75,000. That should get me past the summer into the fall, where temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler, so I can have an easier time doing it, because where I live now, the summers are pretty hot. So let's go ahead and remove the inside pad. Also coming out very smoothly. Okay, so the inside pad has the shim for the caliper. You can see the piston rides back there. And it also has the noise indicator, which is that right there. So when the pad starts to wear down, this noise indicator, here's the tip of that noise indicator, and you can see how much is left till that noise indicator begins to make contact with the rotor. And that's why you hear a squeak every time you hit the brake pads or hit the brake pedals, because this noise indicator is telling you that the pad has worn just at the edge of it or past it at this point. If you leave this on for too long, it will score the rotor a permanent edge, and that will cause the rotor to need to be replaced mandatorily, even if the depth of it is still within spec. So try not to get to the point where this is making noise. I say every year, go in and inspect your pads, and you'll pretty much know based on your driving how much you have left. So this probably is another, my style of driving, probably, man, summer's coming up, maybe 15,000-20,000 left, based on the way these pads are wearing very slowly and efficiently. And then you can see here, I do have the groove here is blocked up with pad material, so we will need to clean that out. Otherwise, gases don't have a way to escape, and if there's too many gases on the face or between the pad and the rotor, it will actually cause the pad to push away from the rotor surface, reducing my braking abilities. So the way I like to clean it is just simply take some brake clean. I'll leave a link for this below as well for Amazon. And you can see it does a pretty good job at cleaning that groove out nicely. You can do the whole brake surface, and if you can tell on the ground, it's pretty dirty what comes out. And then the back part of it, I would highly suggest you clean that off with one of your rags, because that is the part that makes contact with the piston, and that could be the difference between making a lot of noise or being quiet and efficient. And the other thing you want to clean off is the ears, as I call them. Basically, it's the parts that slide the pad forward and back, just to make sure that there's nothing that's going to hang up. Now, if your shim comes off like that, nice and easy, clean it between, because we can grease between it, and that'll actually further reduce any noise that can come of it. Because that's really what the shim is here for. So clean the ears off here as well. That'll help it seat and not vibrate, because the vibrations is really what causes that god-awful squeak that we hear. And unfortunately, people think that's the brake pads going already, and it's not. It's just a little bit of vibration between the pad and the piston. And they go into some dealership, and they're like, yeah, you need new brakes. And mind you, your brakes are perfectly fine. And then they charge you $500 to get a brake job, when all you needed to do was just to clean that little piece and put it back in and reassemble everything. So that's good. Then the back of it looks a little mangy, so we're just going to clean it off. And just FYI, if you're going to work on brakes, just make sure your gloves are clean, you're not contaminating it like that. We'll have to clean that off. You can see where the original color of the pad versus how much grease is on there. The wire brush works well too. So now that we have everything clean, we can just lightly grease the spots where the noise indicator shim will go. Just a nice little coat that will be between the shim itself. And the shim has 2 indicator dimples, and they will go onto the 2 indicator protrusions. Just snaps in nice and easy. And we will also see where the piston makes contact. You can see like a circle there. Just lightly grease that as well. The grease will help prevent the piston from sticking to this. Sometimes different materials of metal, they do something called metal fusion, and they will bond to themselves. Some people like to gently grease the ears as well. I will. Just a very light coat. See, the thing is, you want to grease this stuff, but you also don't want to go crazy, because this will attract sand, and sand and dirt will wear things out and contaminate the pads. So you don't want to go too crazy on it. Plus, your brakes get very hot. So if you have too much grease on it, it will leak, or it will start to run, excuse me. So I try not to leave any clumps. Just a good even coat, no clumps. Alright. So again, the noise indicator shim, that's the one that goes in the back. And the arch of the rotor, or I'm sorry, of the pad, will have to match the rotor. So just simply slide it back in the way you found it. There you go. And the same will go for the front outer facing pad, except the outer facing pad, if you notice, has a little slightly different shim design, and the ears look different. So you want to grease the outsides of it. Again, try not to have any clumps. Alright. So go ahead and slip that in. just like that. All right, so the caliper, we just want to wipe down and try not to push dirt into the seal area. And I'm just inspecting to see how far it made it in. I mean, the face of the piston is actually pretty good. It's not scorned. Usually these are scorned with salt and all sorts of junk. So in this case, it's actually looking pretty good. A very, very light coat. You can do so like that, just to prevent any potential issues. And I would probably just rub that in with a finger just to make it even lighter, because I really don't like when grease, or I'm sorry, like dirt and stuff will attract to a soft piston material, and between the pad it will score it. You guys know me. If I'm already here and I already have plenty of this disassembled, I want to inspect. So everything that looks rubbery, like the bushings, like that boot right there for the CV joint, or the bushings here, I want to inspect all of it to make sure nothing's cracked or dry rotted. And everything looks pretty good to me. You also want to inspect the steering shaft, boot here, and the seal right there, and the control arm, that rubber part in there. You want to make sure that that is not dry rotted, which is very often. You want to make sure that that sway bar is not rotted out. That rubber seal back there is not rotted out. So everything looks pretty good. Like I said, I don't live in a salty environment, so it doesn't really eat up salt. So make sure that this boot here is fine. It looks good to me. So now we can actually reassemble. Now we can take our springs here, install one at a time. Make sure that they're in nice and flush. And again, you want to make sure that they're actually flush. Don't leave them too high up. So looking at the bolt torque list that I made on the Hyundai-forums.com, the same car as the Sorento, so it's not a big deal. You can see that the brake caliper guide bolts, they're only supposed to be torqued 15.9 to 23.1 foot-pounds, or pounds per foot, excuse me. So that's basically just hand tighten the slider bolt. You can, but you risk this slider pin itself spinning on you. If that happens, that's okay. Take a 17mm wrench, crescent wrench, and simply put it on it. If you notice, it actually looks like the head of a bolt, and it's designed for that, so you can keep this part, the slider pin itself, stable, and then go in and tighten the bolt itself to 15 to 20 something foot-pounds of torque. I will just hold it and tighten it up. You can use a torque wrench, but I've been doing this for so long that I know what 15 to 20 foot-pounds of torque feels like, so I really don't need it. And the same thing goes for the bottom. Just take your crescent wrench. There you go.